tell us a little bit about yourself, about who you are.
Okay, I'm Emily Parker. I'm a licensed mental health counselor associate. I specialize in betrayal trauma and problematic sexual behavior. I also see couples that have gone through the devastation of betrayal from problematic sexual behavior, and I am also an EMDR therapist. Outside of that, my previous career paths, I was a combat medic in the military. I was a career firefighter for Woodinville for 4 years. A nurse. My journey towards becoming a therapist evolved in the past 4 years. Five years. So that's my career history. But I'm also a mother, a daughter, a wife, a sister, a lover of Jesus.
Will you tell me a little bit about you're a therapist?
Yeah.
What do you love about being a therapist?
What I love, even as you say that, first thought that even just came to my mind was the sacred space that I get to share with others. It's probably the most vulnerable space that you'll ever sit with another human. And I've been in a lot of vulnerable spaces, being a firefighter, being a nurse, being in the military, where it's people's worst day, things that they couldn't even imagine. But being a therapist almost takes it up a different level because I'm not just sitting there for a moment, right? I get to sit in more depth. It's a really holy space. So I think that's what I love the most about it.
I'd love to hear just about your therapy. Who are the people you see in therapy? What are these areas that you've come to now, focus your work on, being a counselor, being in the sacred space?
It's actually funny because I interned with you, and when I interned with you, in my mind, I was set on not working with betrayal trauma or problematic sexual behavior, even though it's a part of my own story. But I was like, that's just not going to be my focus. And one of my other supervisors, her name's Carol Jurgensen Sheets. She's a specialist within the field of problematic sexual behavior and betrayal trauma. She told me, whatever you say you are not going to choose to do, watch it, because you're going to actually do that. So with that, all I see pretty much almost, I'd say 95% is problematic sexual behavior and betrayal trauma and the impacts of that.
Can you give some examples? Who are these persons? What kind of scenarios lead someone to come into your therapy, to seek help? Help me understand, who are these clients? What are these types of situations?
Yeah. So I would say a lot of it, if I'm looking at my betrayed partners, it's infidelity, it's affairs, emotional or physical affairs, it's porn use by their partner, or being with sex workers or massage parlors, participation in something that's a sexual behavior. It can be emotional or physical that has caused devastation to the bond that they have, or the commitment that they have made in their romantic relationship. So that's what I see most often with my betrayed partners. And then it's basically the same for those that come in with problematic sexual behavior. It's, I participate in this behavior that actually has caused major heartache actually not just for those around me, but for myself. And also stuff I don't want to be doing, but I don't know how to stop.
When I hear those words, when I hear those struggles, I think I'm immediately drawn into this narrative or this perspective that says that those don't occur often, that those are really unique, that almost no one probably struggles with that. And I say that because I think I know that voice, and maybe I've been persuaded otherwise.
Yeah.
As research has continued to emerge. I mean, maybe let's just answer that. Is it very few? Is it a rare occurrence?
No, it's not a rare occurrence. I would say this is, if we look at our society as a whole, we have a kind of a pendulum swing, super hypersexuality within our culture. And I'm talking about what's being portrayed to us, images, how women are portrayed, how beauty is portrayed, right? It's consumptive, it's objectified, it's body parts. It's not the person as a whole. So if we're looking at from that, then we have the other pendulum swing of, and I see it more often in the Christian community with my Christian clients of, let's not talk about it at all. It's very shame-filled, it needs to stay secretive. I can't talk about my sexuality. It's bad, it's dirty. So I think we have these two paradigms and there's lack of balance.
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about healthy sexuality.
Yeah, what happens to people in the midst of that pendulum? What happens to people who live in a hypersexualized culture, but who are in communities or themselves totally unable to talk about sex?
Yes. If we're talking about all that, we're talking about shame. And if we know that shame is always tied to sexuality, always. I don't think you can not talk about sex without talking about shame. Else we would be talking about sex a lot more.
Yes. Yeah, there's a reason we're silent. The silence says so much.
Yes.
And you're saying it's just displaying how much shame we feel around the subject.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd be freely talking about it.
Totally.
Which I think is wild because when you come into the field, I think that's one thing that struck me as someone who was a pastor first, but then was drawn into the work of therapy and counseling, was I'd show up in these environments where there was so much freedom, and I'd be like, wait, we're talking about what? Because I'd never been in an environment, but I think that's what struck me was the amount of permission that is afforded in the counseling community or in some of these spaces like therapy.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how freely people had learned to explore, to discuss. But I think it did what you're describing. It really illustrated to me, oh, there must be a reason I've never or we never talk about these things.
Yes.
And it's shame.
It's shame. Totally. But and also what you're naming makes me think of most of the people I work with, they didn't even have a framework for understanding what is sexuality. And so we're kind of left to our own devices to figure it out. And what's going to teach us? Porn. I mean, at the end of the day, porn or other people, right? They're going to teach us if we don't learn from our families, if we don't learn about our bodies in a healthy way, if we don't learn about how to have boundaries, have physical, emotional boundaries. Those are all tied to our sexuality. And if we don't learn that, which most of us don't, then we're going to fuse shame with our sexuality.
Yeah, my experience is that most people have not had a conversation. When you ask the question, what was your sexual education like in your home?
Yeah.
The answer is almost always there was no sexual education.
Yes.
And probably because of some of these reasons, because of shame. I think it's really rare that you hear a story where, no, my family talked about it a lot, or we talked about our bodies even,
Yeah.
or we talked about some form of sexual education. But I think you're right in that there's this question of, well, if you never talk about it, how will you learn? And you're saying pornography is the way that people tend to learn.
Yeah, there's statistics out that show the average age of exposure to explicit content, such as porn. The average age nowadays is 8 years old. And if it's 8 years old, that's teaching them how to participate in the sex act. But what happens is it teaches us how to do relationship. Because now we objectify other bodies, right? We don't humanize. It's a full. Sex is not just a one thing experience. It's a emotional, physical, spiritual, relational. There's so many components to it that we miss. So when an 8-year-old brain sees that, and then the confusion within their body, they're simultaneously feeling arousal, coming alive. But then I shouldn't be watching this. I shouldn't be watching this. Oh, now I tied shame. I got to keep this secret, but simultaneously I'm aroused. Ooh, we just coupled shame with sex now. So therein lies shame begins to brew with that, and there's secrecy in it, right? I didn't go and tell my parents, and then I kept participating in it because I felt good. It was soothing something, and
So that association becomes greater. Me as a sexual person, when I talk about, experience anything sexually, I'm going to feel shame.
If it's tied,
If it's
especially
tied to
if
this.
especially if you've been exposed at a very young age, which a lot of people have, or have had sexual abuses, which, as I see with a lot of people that struggle with problematic sexual behavior, there's a lot of history of sexual abuse within their story. And that could be within the family, that could be within older kids around them, experimenting, causing harm. That could be too young, participating in sex acts that they weren't ready to be participating in. And so all those forms sets up their arousal templates, sets up their how they perceive sex is to be and is supposed to be. And then that's always brought in to adulthood and their relationships.
Is this men and women?
Men and women. Absolutely.
Yeah, as you describe those stories, I'm thinking of statistics that continue to emerge,
Yeah.
and people are always shocked. The amount of women who are sexually assaulted prior to the age of 18, the amount of
Yeah.
people who have had sexual exposure, even what you just said, age 8. I mean, Barna releasing their porn phenomenon
Yes.
study last year,
Uh-huh.
showing the majority of men do actively seek out porn monthly, but it's not just men, right?
Nope.
It's also women. And when you tell this narrative, I think the shock goes away, right? If someone's thinking like, how could you,
Yeah.
or how could they, or I think when you tell the story, it makes me go, oh, of course. Of
Yeah.
course, there are so many people struggling with shame and with secret sexual sin, or they're becoming adults, or they're going into relationships, into dating, into marriage with problematic sexual behavior that they're secretly managing. I think, wow, there's so many. This isn't, to come back to my question. It's not niche.
Yeah.
It's not rare. It's maybe even the norm. It's so many people, men and women.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. And not just what I see within my practice, but as I've been a part of my own group, like groups around betrayal trauma for myself, or even problematic sexual behavior in my own past, the more people I talk to, as I share and I'm more vulnerable, all of a sudden, oh, I've struggled with that. I've just never told anybody, or I didn't think it was that big of a issue, or and so I see it in my personal life, kind of across the board. And usually the ones that don't say, oh, I struggle with some form or been exposed at some form, there's more of a retraction, which tells me, oh, I can't open that can of worms. Because if we've lived in this world, we've all been, there's sexual harm around all of us. And it's just, how has it impacted your story and your sexuality, and therefore how has it impacted your romantic relationships?
Yes.
And what have you brought in that continues to be playing out, harming each other?
I think my experience is your experience. The moment you start talking about it, or you give permission,
Yeah.
or I tell my story, or I'm in a group where you're free to speak, all of a sudden you really see so many people within the first few weeks go, I've never spoken about this, and this is me too. How does therapy then, how does it help someone who maybe would say, oh, that's me? Yeah, I've had a pattern of, or a secret sexual way that I have hidden that has led to shame in my life.
Yeah.
I have this area that's been largely unexplored. How does therapy help these persons?
Yeah. It lifts that veil of shame that says, I'm the only one. I'm dirty. I'm unclean. Brene Brown says, shame, where there is shame, there has to be secrecy and judgment, right? That's how shame brews. And so when you come to therapy and you start exposing some of the ways in which you've participated sexually throughout your life, good and bad, it allows space for you to be like, oh, this either was something I didn't know I was struggling with, or something that, wow, there was actually profound beauty in this. So it opens up that door for you to actually get out of denial. And at the heart of problematic sexual behavior, the first thing I work on with those that come in with PSB is denial, because they've convinced themselves, I'm kind of the master of my ship, right? And if nobody else is there to guide me or to be like, have you thought about this? It doesn't allow me to actually get out of my justification, my minimization, my denial of my patterns. That's actually how the start of how therapy is really impactful to help alleviating that shame. And once
Because they've had to deal with that alone. They've had to manage it alone. They've had to be the captain of that ship.
Yeah.
This is the first time someone's been invited into their own process, their story.
Yep.
I imagine, in my experience with this subject, just even the storytelling ends up being hugely healing, because so many people have internalized there's something uniquely wrong with them.
Yes.
They're the only one that struggles with this.
Yeah.
When really there's a whole story there, like we just said, that when I hear it, I'm going to probably end up saying, of course you have this in your life. Of course pornography
Yeah.
is a way you've gotten through. Of course no one knows about this. In my experience too, just even the storytelling, there's so much compassion that people receive in the face of the places they've probably been telling themselves, you're the worst,
Yes.
or you're gross, or you're the only one.
Yeah, and I think that only one piece I hear that often. I don't want to join a men's group because I don't struggle with that. I struggle with this, and I know it's only me. They'll say, it's maybe not said it's only me, but the posture is that it's only me. They're not going to understand what I'm going through, or their stuff isn't, I'm not struggling with that. But I also hear it with betrayal trauma. If I go and share these things, I feel so much worse. Or what if theirs is worse? Then mine's not that bad, right? So there's all these kind of justifications, which we could call them denial, that it's actually, sometimes I say this little phrase to some of my clients, that problematic sexual behavior and betrayal trauma is like ice cream, but we all have different flavors that we choose. But at the end of the day, at its core, it's still ice cream. It still has similar threads that you and I can join each other on how it's impacted our lives. And so when I get groups, because I let me and my husband both lead groups, and I think they're a staple for those that have gone through problematic sexual behavior and betrayal trauma. You start seeing these different flavors of ice cream, but they're like, oh, I so resonate with that. That's my experience too. Even though your story is completely different than mine, but you just allowed me to see that, oh, I've actually been really struggling and stuck with that. Tell me more. I want to hear more.
You're answering it, but I just want to ask, what is the value of being in a group? Why should a person who's struggling with problematic social behavior go into a group environment? Which does sound really vulnerable. It does sound scary.
Yes, it is.
It sounds like, oh, I'd much rather just be alone with my therapist than be in... Why should someone do that?
Yeah, well, I'm going to lead from my story first. When I went through my betrayal with my husband, I was very adverse to groups, very adverse to spaces where people were sharing vulnerably. And so it was a step into it was me risking vulnerability to step into that space. When I did, it opened up doors for me that I wouldn't actually be a therapist here today if I wouldn't have joined those groups. And I'm not saying everybody has to become a therapist on their healing journey, but the group dynamic offers mirrors, and it offers a place of support and empathy that you get in individual therapy, but the group dynamic, it has a energy to it. You could, whatever your faith background is, you can call it the Holy Spirit moving within. You could call it energy moving and flowing between us. But we're relational beings. And when I'm in isolation and I'm not connected to others, my body feels it. My mind, body, spirit. So when you bring this kind of stuff that's really tethered to shame into a group environment, you bring exposure to the darkness, and therefore it brings actually so much light. And so I think that's why groups are essential. And you get accountability. You get stories on where everybody's in different stages of their healing, which is impactful for somebody who's just starting their healing journey. To have a more veteran person of kind of helping speak into their life. Or, hey, I've tried this. What do you think? So there's that accountability piece is really powerful that you can get in individual therapy. But when you have more faces that are like me too, and how can we grow each other? It's quite a miraculous experience. I still do groups today, my own groups, participate in. I seek them out. I find other women that want to grow.
Me too, and I'm struck by every time the power of just being with someone who has struggled with something similar or been down that road ahead of you. Like, I don't think people realize how unbelievably powerful it is to sit in something that has intrinsic shame, like sexual struggles, and just have so much permission to explore, to listen, to receive from one another. I've heard so many times from guys, I can't believe the thing I needed more than anything was just to see and believe others are going through something similar.
Yeah.
And it just maybe shows how deep that lie is
Yes.
that you were speaking to, which is like, I'm alone.
Yes.
Or this is just me. Or if I was to share this, I'm going to be rejected. I think group space tears that to pieces.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you know this, but the number one most painful experience is social rejection. And the way our brain categorizes it is in the same place as we categorize physical pain. So if I'm going to step into a space where I'm potentially going to be socially rejected, that's immense pain that I'm going to have to withstand, but I have to risk it. I have to risk it first and know that I can withstand the rejection in hopes that I will be contained, that I will be accepted. So it's quite the dilemma, right? And I think that that's a lot of it is the fear of social rejection for so many is so powerful. So
I think I see in these spaces often members come in, men or women, and they actually get love and acceptance for parts of themselves that they're actually not ready to give themselves.
yes,
And that is wildly disruptive in the most beautiful way.
yeah,
When someone goes, oh, I don't reject you. Oh, I want to hear more. Oh, I know what that experience is. I'm so for you. I think that for me was a wild experience in group to be like, how could you? I can't even accept this about myself.
yeah. And how did you see them grow from that? How did you see that impact them when they were met with that?
I think it opened up the possibility that these parts of themselves can be loved and not cut off or thrown out.
Yeah.
I think what you just said is like there's two sides of it. One is we're so afraid to be fully known and rejected. Tim Keller will say it's the scariest. It's literally our greatest fear.
Yeah.
To be fully known and therefore rejected. But conversely, the most healing thing a person can experience is to be fully known and loved, which is of course what Jesus does to us.
Yeah.
He knows us fully. He knows us to the bottom. And he has delight and he has love and he says, come, you're not just forgiven.
Yeah.
I'm for you. I actually love you. So I think when you're in group and you get delight and you receive, oh, wait, you saw this part of me? Wait, you know about my sexual struggle now? And wait, you love me even more because of it? All of a sudden, I do think people are getting a taste of the gospel they've never received before.
Yeah.
That is transforming. That has transformed my life. That has just transformed so many men that I've sat with around this subject.
Same. I like what you're saying. I completely resonate with. To bear all, and then you still show up and want to love me. Really? And I think that that's so many people, especially a lot of people that have come to me, they have experiences throughout their lives that say, I'm not going to choose you. Either it be through primary caregivers or friendships or romantic relationships. So little betrayals, not little, but betrayals over time that tell them I'm not good enough. And so therefore, why would I step into a group where I potentially am not going to be good enough? And when that is flipped on its head, like you're saying, I actually show up to these groups and holy crap, all these people love me. They actually love me more for sharing authentically. They don't want the masked me. They want the deeper, like they want the dark with the light. They want to see my shadow side. And when you start beginning to be aware of that, what can come in authentic relationships, what can come in healthy boundary building, what can come in just depth of connection, it is, I think is like a God-given gift that we all desire. We just don't know how to find it.
Yes. So that makes me wonder about the betrayal side of things, because you also work with betrayal trauma.
Yeah.
What is betrayal trauma? How is it related to what we're talking about right now?
Yeah. So when I work betrayal trauma, I'm working it from the lens of being impacted by problematic sexual behavior. So betrayal can happen in any form, right? It can happen in childhood. It can happen by my partner gambling, squandering finances. I can be betrayed in many ways, but what I'm talking about explicitly is from problematic sexual behavior. And the way it impacts the mind, body, spirit is much different than if you're looking at alcoholism or if you're looking at drug addiction, because it impacts identity. Someone or something is being chosen over me, and that now that it's added with sex, now it really hits to my core worth, to my value, my enoughness. Am I enough? Is my body enough? So it really hits to these really deep core identities that get rocked heavily. So with trauma, if we're looking at trauma, Gabor Mate says trauma is not what happens to me, it's what happens inside of me. So not every betrayed partner is going to have the same experience. Some might be more traumatized by their partner's acting out behaviors than others. So it just depends. It depends on past experiences. It depends on past traumas. It also depends on the level of deceit, deception, gaslighting that the betrayer has done to their partner to hide their sexual acting out. That elevates the level of trauma. Because then again, I go back into second guessing myself. This was supposed to be the person I was supposed to trust the most. At my core, it rocks us to our core. And what we're really dealing with is a massive attachment rupture. So when you bond romantically later in life, it actually mimics the attachment from our earlier on years with our primary caregivers. So when we have these massive attachment ruptures at the foundation of trust and commitment, it devastates the mind, and it literally traumatizes the mind.
The destruction is so much greater.
It's so much greater, and the ripple effect is not just now my mind, body, and spirit, but it's my kids, it's our friends, it's my family. Because now what happens is I don't even trust the world. If I'm supposed to trust this person that's supposed to have my back, and they're doing all these behaviors and have this, Dr. Omar Manwala calls it the secret sexual basement that our whole family has been living on top of. And now that comes to light. Now I have to make sense of my whole reality for the past how many years, because it's not the reality I knew. So that's disorienting. So in a nutshell, that is betrayal trauma. And that can manifest in hypervigilant behavior. It can go into, I can see brain fog, agitation, loss of concentration. These are trauma symptoms, because betrayal trauma is a mid-trauma event. It's not a post-traumatic event. It's something that's currently happening right now to me. And so you're disoriented, your loss of appetite, depression, anxiety, rage. I've seen, even from my own story, and also a lot of partners I see, they're like, I've never been this rageful in my life. And it scares them. It's scary. Like, I've never experienced this level of rage. Well, your brain has been hijacked.
So you sit with men and women, I'm guessing mostly women, who, when they sit down with you, you have this perspective. You are in the midst of a significant trauma.
Yep.
What you're going through, your experience. Because I'm thinking that what has happened here with the partner often is where the spotlight goes. If a partner or a man has had an affair or has had, an addiction to pornography or has purchased sex, just one of these acts, I think I've seen the order of actions, the things that need to be done, almost like he gets the treatment, he gets the attention, the story is about that he needs healing.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is the partner has their own, they need healing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's, you have almost the exposure for the person with, I'm just going to say PSB, which means problematic sexual behavior. The exposure for them is painful, but now what has happened is just heaped this glob onto the betrayed partner, where she's on the, and I'm going to say she because I mostly see female betrayed partners and male betrayers, but there's many men that have been betrayed. It's actually more common than not. She's on the ground bleeding out. while he's getting his care, right, and doing, I got to do all my work. I gotta get sober. I gotta recover. While she's just like, how do I even do life? There's a much heavier burden, because oftentimes, and in my practice, I see a lot of high achieving betrayed partners. So I mean, these are resilient, strong, driven women that I see, and this it implodes their world. How do I function? I can't even concentrate. I can't even find my keys, right? And so the devastation is disastrous. So yes, the betrayed partner, they need just as much care as the one that needs to
Which in some
heal.
ways is cruel, right? Like
So cruel.
they have received this trauma from someone else.
Yeah.
The idea, I've sat across from women who have received a betrayal, and just the idea that they themselves need healing, that they have a path that they now have to walk, feels really cruel because it's not their fault.
Yeah. I didn't choose this, right? That, and I hear that all the time. I would have never chosen this, but yet I have to heal from it. That, oh, I feel so unjust, and that's the common. I'm angry because now I'm hurting so deeply, but I didn't. It wasn't self-imposed. So yes, what you're saying is absolutely true.
What kind of things in therapy are helping these women heal? What's done in therapy? What helps them if this huge devastating attachment trauma has happened?
Yeah.
How does someone who's been betrayed get healing in therapy?
So I'm a certified clinical partner specialist candidate, which that's big words for a betrayed partner specialist. So I have specialized training in how to work with betrayal trauma, and we, from our lens, we look at betrayal in stages. In the first stage, when they, like, so there's been exposure, or we call it D-Day, discovery day. Oftentimes in that first stage, they need safety and stability. And so a lot of that first early work is resettling the ground they're standing on, self-care, boundaries. Boundaries are really important, especially when you have somebody who has done massive boundary violation. Re-understanding a little bit of their identity. Who are they? Because now there's a distortion of who am I? And I do a lot of somatic work, which means a lot of grounding, a lot of in the moment, bringing to the here and now, because often trauma lives in the past and the present. So therefore, I need to be.
That person isn't in here and now.
They're not in the here and now, right? Because now I need to make sense of my past 10 years. What has the past 10 years been? Oh, but that family trip. Oh, but this. And we do have to process that, but we also have to stabilize the nervous system.
We need to be okay here and now.
Here and
we
now.
need support in this moment. We need to feel bodily okay first.
Yeah, and so a lot of it isn't really processing those big things, but it's, like I said, doing a lot of nervous system calming. So then that way I can attack my life, get back into my life, and have more functionality. I can be a little bit more present, even though it might not feel like it. But that's the starting work. Stage 2 is for those that move out of that. They become more stable. They find safety with whatever, if that means they're staying with their partner or if they're leaving. They're starting to establish a more sturdiness to themselves. And so that second stage is grief, mourning, and loss. And Carol Jurgensen Sheets, she's my supervisor, she adds in anger to that, because we actually have to process that anger. We have to process that pain. And so I do a lot of different exercises to move them through processing the things that they know, the lies that they lived, the distortion of reality, identity, making sense of their reality. So that's some of, we can hit more deeper work there. And then the third stage is post-traumatic growth. And that's often where we do a lot more deeper dives into their own stories. Where'd they come from? What's happened to them that betrayal actually now has impacted their own woundings of their own story. And this is not a linear, okay, you're in stage 1 and then you move right to stage 2 and then to stage 3. You can kind of vacillate between, and that's normal. But you can kind of see some milestones of healing throughout the stages.
And you get to see that. You get to see people
Yep.
move through healing.
Yep. And I myself, my biggest post-traumatic growth was becoming a therapist. And post-traumatic growth can often be, how are you going to take this, what has happened to you, and help others? Or how are you going to bring purpose out of this pain? And when I start seeing partners do that, like, oh, I want to start a group. Oh, really? Okay. That's post-traumatic growth, because that's saying I want to share this with others. It's not meant to be by itself, right? Or post-traumatic growth is I have this hobby that I want to go participate in this, and it's really come alive in me, right? Because when you're in crisis, you don't have this imagination for creativity and play. But we have to get that back.
Like the light has been sucked out of the world. Pain is the only thing you have.
Pain is the only thing I see. So we have to rebuild. There has to be light where there is dark. And so that's a lot of the work we do in the therapy space, but then we do that in group work. I do a lot of workbooks. I give a lot of homework, but it's because of the nature of problematic sexual behavior and betrayal trauma. We need to understand what are we working with, and to understand is also empowering as well. The biggest thing about betrayal trauma is the lack of empowerment. It's often I feel powerless to my circumstances. I feel stuck.
Things are just happening to me.
Things are happening to me I have no control over. And so a lot of the healing too is around empowerment. That's why self-care is important. That's why getting help, community is important. We have to empower to get out of stuckness. And boundary setting is vital to empowerment. And so I just want to name that piece, because empowerment is really how I see betrayed partners begin to heal and reform their identity.
Give me a sense of what happens in couples, because you see individuals struggling with problematic sexual behavior. You see the partners who have received this betrayal, but you also work with couples. What happens in these couples? How do couples, what's the type of healing that comes? What is the process that couples tend to go through as they move through these stages?
So with couples, it's often more complex and is usually more structured work at the beginning. I always recommend a therapeutic disclosure, especially if there's been problematic sexual behavior, deceit, lies, hidden truth.
What is a disclosure?
A therapeutic disclosure process is where a betrayer gets rigorously honest, and essentially it's a whole process. It's not just one moment, but if they're working with, often they're working with a certified sex addiction therapist to write up their disclosure, which is they're naming out the facts of all the ways they've hidden and deceived, all their sexual acting out behaviors to the level that the partner wants to hear. And it helps them get really honest. It actually helps them expose their hidden lies, but then it simultaneously is the opportunity for the betrayed partner to say, okay, that's what I have to heal from, because I can't heal from what I don't know that I need to heal from. And so therapeutic disclosure, that's why and you want to do it with trained therapists. I don't ever recommend disclosures on your own. No, it's meant to be therapeutic, because you want it to be give the most possibility for restoration of the relationship, if that's what the couple is desiring. And so then there's lots of ways of doing it. Length, disclosure process can take months to get to, because each person has to do a level of work to get to that process. And then there's steps afterwards. There's different letters that we write to each other that processes the pain. There's an emotional impact letter from the partner that's done in session with therapists. And then there's a restitution letter that the betrayer gets to write after the emotional impact letter is shared. And these are stages of the disclosure process that are to aid in healing. So I actually heal from the betrayal. Because often people, they'll be like, okay, that happened, let's move on. But it's a stain that will get stuck if it's not processed. And so that's just like a very small tidbit of kind of the disclosure process. It's a little more complex than that, than what I even named. But that's what I always recommend with couples. They don't have to go that route though, obviously. If they don't want to.
I'm imagining a disclosure is almost like the beginning of building a new relationship. Because
Yep.
that sounds painful and terrifying and
Yes.
hard, this sense of coming clean.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking, if trust has been destroyed because of betrayal, how will you build trust? I'm imagining one of the only ways you can build trust is showing honesty, is showing this is who I really am.
Yeah.
And so as painful as that is, I imagine it's actually the beginning of building what you will need for the future, which is a relationship of trust.
Yes.
I believe what you say.
Absolutely. That is the disclosure. Like what you kind of named that. The disclosure is the first piece of empathy that a betrayer gives to the partner.
Wow.
Because it says, I'm going to tell you all the things and you might leave me, but I'm going to be honest because we have to build a new foundation. And often I say this, my own therapist said this to me, my husband, your first marriage is dead. Your second marriage is now starting.
Wow.
That's scary. But it has to be on honesty and authenticity. And that's what the disclosure process can offer.
I'm thinking of the alternative, which is, let's just move forward.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about what happened.
Yeah.
And how trust has been eviscerated. But now how will you learn to trust what that person says? And how will you heal from this, like you said, massive trauma? I imagine there's no way to skip that healing, that you have then entered into a relationship with even more hiding.
Yes. And also, more often than not, if there is no healing for both partners and then there's no collective relational healing, then most often it's going to happen again. And so that's why you see people stuck for 20 years. And all of a sudden, oh, it happened again. It happened again. There's no chance we have to set a new norm. We have to get out of that old cycle. And that process can give it a much better chance. Much better chance. But it is very painful. And disclosures can be traumatic.
Can marriages heal? Can a new marriage begin like you're describing, with an old marriage dead and really painful events of betrayal having occurred? Can there really be healing?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I would do this work if I didn't believe that, but also my own story is a testament of that. My husband and I both have grasped recovery as and eaten it up. He's becoming a therapist. He specializes in working with problematic sexual behavior as well as myself. This is, we believe in the healing because we've seen it in our own lives and the beauty of it and the restoration. It takes really hard work and it's not for everybody. There's some couples that are not going to make it, and that's the reality too. But if both partners are willing to step into the painful work, they have hope actually for a better marriage. Not even what they had before, but something that is profoundly beautiful, profoundly life-giving, profoundly deep in emotional connection. And I don't know, that's the from what I've seen, and it even makes me teary thinking of it, because I believe evil wants to take our those relationships from us. But when you see people working so hard at it and they make it, you're like, wow. Oh, there's beauty to that.
And the marriage can be even more beautiful
It usually is.
than the dead one they left behind.
Yep.
And that makes so much sense to me when you're saying it's this painful process. It will take time. It's a rebuilding of trust. But I'm thinking of what you're giving up in that process. You're giving up the hiding, the denial, the secrets,
Yeah.
the hiding from each other.
Yeah.
That was inevitably a part of those marriages.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the opportunity to be with each other fully is a new experience.
New experience. And oftentimes, once you start moving past the betrayal and you've processed all that pain, and now the couple is, and I have couples that actually are working on their relational dynamic, their conflict cycles that are kind of outside of the betrayal. You start saying, oh, look at the stuff we had to work on before betrayal. And they're working on it. But they have this level of commitment because for both people to say, we are both going to stay and work hard, there's this deeper level of commitment than I think, it'll probably be the biggest and hardest commitment they'll ever make in their life, but the most beautiful commitment that they'll make if they can get to that next space, which, like what you're saying, it's more than possible. And so many of the other therapists that mentor me, they've seen it for years. They've been working in this space for 30 plus years with betrayal trauma and problematic sexual behavior. And I've heard them say, if I didn't have hope for marriages, why would I do this work? If I didn't have hope that both could heal, I wouldn't do this work. But it's possible and better.
For those people, I'm thinking a dream has died. The dream of having a marriage.
Yeah.
That didn't have betrayal. The dream of having a marriage where my partner doesn't or didn't struggle with pornography. The dream of having a marriage where we had so much peace. But I'm thinking as that marriage dies and as that dream dies, something so much deeper has been forged.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that they're even more bonded than they were before.
Often, yes. Yes.
And that potentially there's an invitation to live in a marriage without a mask.
Yes. Yeah. And how freeing. I mean, I know we've gotten to feel that, but explaining that to somebody else that hasn't got to experiencing it yet can feel daunting.
Scary.
It can feel scary. Like, what do you mean I don't wear a mask anymore? But the freedom that can come from it, you're just like, oh, I don't have to live like that anymore. Thank God. Thank God. So yes, I completely agree with everything that you're saying.
So if someone is watching this and thinking, okay, this is me. I had early exposure to pornography, or I've had a sexual story that has had to be totally hidden, or I have problematic sexual behavior, or I've committed a betrayal, or I've been a betrayed person. How is therapy an invitation for them?
Yeah, it's the first step, the hardest step, even picking up the phone to call the therapist is actually your first step towards healing. Because it's what it's saying is I'm going to choose to step into discomfort and pain, but ultimately it has to be, nobody can push you into it. Nobody can push you into healing. You have to actively make the choice to pick up that phone. And I think that's always the first start. And once you start from there, then it's just incrementally allowing yourself to kind of unfold in a really safe place. I think therapy is the best place to start because you're with somebody that has seen this. This is not unknown to them. This is not uncommon.
They're not going to be shocked.
They're not going to be shocked. You are going to be held in a way that is profoundly safe. Where if you're just trying to figure it out with some friends or people that don't understand it, it's not going to give you that first nudge towards actual profound healing that you're going to need. So that's what therapy can offer as just the initial step.